Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Scribes and Scrolls. This is Book 7,
Hey.
Under a Red Moon, Chapter 98,
Oh my God.
In Order to Remember the Unforgettable. And in just a few minutes, we will have a little bit of a recap, and we'll bring us into our 98th regular session, Scribes and Scrolls. And given what I just told Gary and Cari off air, we're gonna pass our 100 episode mark before the campaign ends. And with right now counting this episode with the interludes, I think we're at 108.
110? 108?
I think it's 108. But not counting those 98 regular sessions of the main campaign. We're almost there.
Damn.
We'll probably end up at somewhere around like 101, 102, 103, 103.3 WKFR. Sorry. It's one of those core
We were just
memories.
talking about voice
Yeah.
acting stuff before, and Jake felt the need to show off.
Apparently.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing.
a couple things real quick. I would like to point over here, up above Cari, you'll see the all those books. Those are the domain tomes that are a way that you, the audience, can have an impact on the game simply by subscribing, resubscribing, gifting subs, cheering 500 bits, tipping $5. All of these things earn domain tomes for the players. They can use them to re-roll a check. They can use them to or draw a hero card, which nobody has ever done. Avoid death can only be used once per player per session, or change of fate. You can spend 5 tomes to change your success level of any die up or down 1 level, including my dice roll. With that, we are now at
Thank you for the reminder.
sorry, Cari, no crunchy sounds when these tomes disappear.
I wish there were crunchy sounds for the books. We gotta get some kind of like fluttering
the
sound.
ruffling of pages. What was that sound
Yes.
again? Professional voice actor. That's what a book sounds like. Let me flip through
if
my
I don't
book real-
vocalize it, it's gonna get noise gated.
This is
So
me.
I gotta go blah,
This
blah,
is
blah,
me
blah.
looking through the book for rules.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what it sounds like.
Oh man. So let's see a couple other things. We do actually have a couple chat commands for this as well. If I can remember them. Yes. We are adults portraying fictitious characters in fantastic settings. You may hear graphic depictions of violence, intense dramatic roleplay, or sensitive topics, including but not limited to divorce, bullying, alcohol and substance use and abuse, and more. If this is something that does not appeal to you, we encourage you to take care of yourself and leave the stream. That is a new, I think I set it up as a timer as well, but that's a new chat command that we have. The other one is not that. We have in place safety tools at our table. We've had session zeros. We understand what people's lines and veils are. And we want to make sure that everybody stays safe and secure at the table. We use our own safety tool, the traffic light system. And we encourage all of you to use session zeros and safety tools at your own table. The new safety tools command sort of re-emphasizes this, but also provides you a link to check out the TTRPG safety toolkit, which is where I got the traffic light system, as well as the RPG consent form checklist that I use for all games when arranging them. These are invaluable tools when setting up your games. Speaking of making sure everybody is safe and secure, this is where I like to tell everybody about just a reminder that you matter. Your presence on this earth makes a difference. Whether you believe it or not, it is true. There's any number of reasons why you either don't feel great, or maybe you do feel great, but you want somebody to talk to. It doesn't matter. We've made it as easy as possible for you to find somebody to talk to simply by coming to chat and typing !help. When you do so, a couple URLs will pop up, findahelpline.com, or you can check out takethis.org. They have a growing list of resources there. We encourage you to check out these websites, bookmark them, save them for yourself, save them for a friend, and remember, you matter. With that, Cari, what time is it?
Well, it's time to find some paths, bitches.
Oh, that had a little bit of
I didn't mean for that to have as much sex in it as it did.
Say
but
that.
So
I was
it happened.
I was going to say sassy, and it wasn't that. I was going to say it was breathy.
Nope, it was
a little breathier than normal, but
we look forward here, never ever back.
Yep. I just really want to find some paths now.
Hell yeah.
All right. So, as a quick refresher, you were airborne in the Zephyrhawk, your airship, flying around the horn of the Mindspin Mountains, kind of briefly over top of the Hold of Belskin, heading toward the Eye of Dread, the Gravelands, and ultimately your destination, which is deep in the Gravelands near the lake that's named just immediately left my brain. It's like Lake Eclathon or something like that. Nonetheless, while traversing through very cloudy skies, you were attacked by a skeletal ship made entirely of bones. And you were attacked by a variety of skeleton warriors, pirates, if you will, that you wound up dealing with them, but they pretty much wrecked your world, at least a couple of you. I somehow feel like Flip emerged out of that relatively unscathed, as seems to be the case more often than not. But the Zephyrhawk did not fare as well, as the ship crashed into a dry riverbed, digging a 300-meter long trench and ending with the bow up in the air at about a 30-degree angle. You all survived the crash with varying levels of wear and tear from the crash itself and from your encounter with the bone ship. Kane is not doing well.
I'm not either. I just looked. I have 42 out of 178.
You guys took quite a lot. And you also have no idea where you are. You have crashed into the wilderness somewhere with no clear indication of where exactly you are. Only that you were heading east, southeast towards your final destination. And right now, you are shipwrecked, as it were, with no indication as to the state of your ship or the rest of yourselves. How would you like to proceed?
Teera would like climb up. You said the bow of the ship is like poking up.
When we left off, you were sort of up on the. You and Flip were up on the poop deck by the wheel.
Okay.
And Kane had sort of slid back against the cabin below you, and was kind of in a tangled mess. And yes, the ship is at about a 30-degree angle.
I think Teera would like climb up onto the highest part of the ship, whatever is the highest off the ground.
Which at this point would be the bowsprit.
The bow, yeah, the sprit, yeah. I want to go up and look. I just want to like climb up there and look around and see if we're high enough that I can see anything in the distance, maybe buildings or something.
Picture a version of Jack and Rose on the bow of the Titanic, except it's you clambering up alone to the front of this airship. The camera is totally doing one of those 360-degree zooms as you climb up and you stand there sort of bracing yourself, the wind blowing in your hair. You seem to be on a downslope you can see that the dry riverbed, based on the fact that the earth that's churned up underneath and cast to the sides from the ship has this sort of dark soil appearance to it. This is probably an intermittent river. It's probably flows stronger in the spring.
Seasonal melts.
Yeah, when the melts come in. But for whatever reason, there's no water flowing now. There's forest. Probably to your left, the forest is maybe 100 yards away. To your right, it's further, maybe a quarter mile away to more forest. The hill or the area you're on is slightly slanted downward, which sort of puts you up seemingly even higher as you're looking over this sort of
down. Okay.
Essentially it's a river valley just without any active river at the moment. Far off in the distance you can just make out what has to be, you can't even calculate how many miles at this point. You can make out a massive body of water.
Oh wow.
And I'm gonna find out the name of that lake for you.
Okay.
Can't remember.
Can Teera make a survival check to maybe know about where they're at?
Lake Carthen is the name of the lake.
Carthen. Can I do a survival check to know that information?
Yes, you can make
Here I go. Starting off strong, boys. Nat 20. Let's go. That's a total of 36. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, so with that survival check, you are able to absolutely ascertain that your ship is essentially pointed in the direction you want to go.
Okay.
It's truly east by southeast. It's like halfway between east and southeast.
Like perfectly. Okay.
You definitely remember that the name of that massive body of water is Lake Carthen. And that with that much of a success, you are able to recall probably one of those things that you didn't really think about it until you see the lake and you kind of see the lay of the land. Maybe you've never been here, but you've heard of it, maybe seen maps. Based on the way you're pointing, there's only one nearby city or village or what have you that it could possibly be that is nearby where this temple is supposed to appear. And that is a place called Velumis.
With a V.
Velumis.
Velumis. Okay. And I can see Velumis?
Not so much that.
Or, okay.
Let me see if I can parse out how many miles this is.
Well, Jake parses out how many miles that is. Check us out on teespring.com. At teespring.com, you can get great MTD shirts like this. You can get shirts specific to our games. You can get awesome class shirts for whether you like your rogues or your barbarians or so many others. You can get our designs on t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, stickers, and all kinds of other great stuff. Teespring.com. Just search Mini Terrain Domain. Also, be sure to check out our other awesome shows like Kids on Bikes, other things we do sometimes, and this.
I would say you're looking at a distance. I don't know, the fact that you can see the water maybe is a miracle. Maybe it's an illusion because I misread.
Yeah.
Yes.
For some
Went out
reason,
for a
my
second
mic
there.
just cut out completely.
That's not what you want.
No, it just said it was unable to detect my microphone. and it vanished. That was weird. I think
We can hear you now.
I don't like that.
Probably bumped a thing.
That's what I don't understand is what I could have bumped. I'll just keep my stuff away from the front there. Anyway, you're approximately
Don't look at it funny.
You're approximately 80 miles from your destination.
Okay. And how long do we have to get there? Like, what is the...
At this point,
What's the-
you're
what's
down
the time limit
to
at now?
about maybe 3 days tops.
Shit. We're not gonna get there. Teera looks into the distance and kind of does the shielding her eyes kind of thing, and then she comes back down the bow, kind of sliding as she goes, and she's like, well, we're about 80 miles out from Volumus, and that's where we're trying to get. What do you think, Flip? Is the airship, like, totaled? Or...
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't done a thorough evaluation. You know, we just crashed after all. It's been like 16 seconds.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I just kind of assumed that you being the best at everything and everything, that maybe you'd already be on it. But, you know.
You know, well, I'm just gathering a lay of the land. Other people can lay the land, Teera, not just you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Consider the land laid. And Teera is kind of like laughing to herself as she's going over and like trying to talk to Kane and help him.
I'd say you're hilarious, but nobody would pay you for your comedy.
That's the funniest thing I've ever said. Shut up.
And Flip is going to look at her for a moment. Yeah, that I would believe.
I love it. That's so awesome.
Flip will be looking at the airship and try and figure out what he needs to do to fix it if he can. Keeping in mind, of course, he's not an engineer.
I think this is going to require the same types of checks that would be used to pilot it, which are crafting, piloting. What was the other one? That was a weird one.
Arcana?
Yeah, Arcana would be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, all of those are the same, so...
Nice. I think you should get to add the mods for all three of them. That's just something I think.
31 crafting.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
As Teera's sort of heading over to talk to Kane and Flip's sort of moving around, checking things off, at various points, Flip, you're kind of looking at some of the mechanical controls, which are, you know, the wheel, and it has these sort of the ropes that go below and that work the rudder, but it's also connected to the arcane devices that are used to keep the ship aloft, give it its flight powers. You're sort of doing one of these things where it's like, oh yeah, this thing looks like it's loose. And you're not sure if it broke
Oh God.
or
Probably
just
didn't need
came
that.
loose. And that happens more than once. The end result of your inspection of the ship is that you have 4 separate spare pieces that have either come loose or broken off that you have no idea what they do.
Uh-oh.
Right.
God.
You know, Teera,
What?
it could be worse.
Oh, yeah? Do we
Yeah.
get it back in the air?
I mean, in theory.
What does that mean?
What do you mean? What does it mean?
Can we get her up in the air or not?
I don't know.
What do you mean in theory, then? What the hell?
I'm a bard, Teera, not an engineer.
And, Teera, is he wearing the hat? Is he wearing his captain's hat?
Of course he is.
Then Teera would kind of like flick the brim and be like, well, just assumed you kind of knew what you were doing.
Flip is gonna walk right up to Teera. How tall is Teera?
Teera is 6'6".
Flip is going to attempt to make a standing jump.
He's like those kids at friggin' like
He is
team
going
camp
to
for
attempt
football.
to make a high jump.
Oh my god.
And we're gonna see how I do here. Okay, so I got a 16. I only need to jump a foot in the air.
Oh my god.
And Flip is gonna attempt to flick her in the nose.
Jesus.
And he's going to attempt to flick her in the nose. That's what he's going to do. And then he has something to say. We'll see if it happens. Let's see what happens.
I want to make a reflex save. Oh, God. I got a 21, which is only a three on the die.
Okay. So Flip is going to jump up and he's going to try and flick her in the nose. And he's going to land and he's going to say, "The captain doesn't build the boat, Teera. How many boats have you been on? The captain's not like hammering in the nails. He's not sewing the sails. He's captaining the boat."
Well,
I can't believe I need to explain this to you. How old are you? Like 22?
I'm 28.
Oh,
No, I haven't been on a ton of boats.
got some city miles on you.
Fuck up, Flip. It's been a rough one, okay?
Really?
And Teera would just kind of like be. I assume he succeeds in flicking her in the nose.
Yeah, I was waiting to see what you guys were doing. Apparently, you don't need a game master because you guys are making your own rolls and reflex saves. I'm like, I'm gonna see how this plays out.
And Teera's just kind of like rubbing her nose, and at this point, she can't get too mad at Flip. And she would just kind of be like, "Well, do you want to try to get her up in the air?"
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna fly her very high though.
That's smart.
You know, just cause this is the thing. Hey Teera,
Yeah.
could you do me a favor?
Sure.
Could you forge me a sword?
Well, I can't. I don't have any of the materials, and I don't have a forge, and
Lack the skills?
No, I don't lack the skills. I just lack the stuff.
All right. Well, fine then.
I know the point you're trying to make, Flip, but you should find a better analogy.
Make me a sword then. Make me a sword. So damn fancy. Just do it. I mean,
I have literal Coke Zero coming out of my nose. You got me good. You got me good. Oh, so Teera is like talking to Kane, and she would just kind of be like sitting near him. And is he like freaking peeled like a banana? Is that what happened here?
No,
His
it's
skin
more
got,
like
flayed off.
It's more like a road rash kind of a thing.
Ow. So
you can see that this whole time that you two have been talking,
bickering.
He is actually treating his own wounds.
What a stud.
He has a handful of skills and things that are targeted towards healing with natural medicine. So he is going to, and because he's an expert, he's going to attempt a DC 20 check to increase the total hit points healed by 10. So that's a 16, which beats the DC. The DC, oh wait, no it doesn't. But we add nature to that, which for him makes it a 32. So that's higher than the DC 20, so that counts as critical success. So he gets
badass.
He heals himself for 4d8 plus 10 for the expert roll. So he's going to get back 10, and 6, 16, 26 hit points.
Damn.
And for now, I'm going to say that's what he gets. He's going to continue treating himself in this manner for an hour.
Is this like a spell that he's casting or some
Nope,
like
it's just-
action he's taking?
It is.
Can I ask
a
him to
skill
help
feat.
me too?
In an hour, he'll be able to help you.
Okay.
Because he has to spend the whole hour, at which point he can double his hit points healed to 52.
Okay.
Um,
And yeah, I guess I would rather he take care of himself first. So like when he's done, then I would ask.
so anyway, while he's doing this, you can still
Chat with him.
talk to him. Yeah.
And so he got like tangled up in like Marta's like vines, that whole issue. Is that what happened to him?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of one of the attacks that happened, and it may even have been a reflex action from Marta in her current form as this tree.
Okay.
That's still, by the way, embedded in the deck, holding
Oh Jesus.
with the blood axe sort of all tangled up in vines.
God. Tangled up in vines.
Yeah.
It's a deep cut Bob Dylan reference.
Teera, you know what's hilarious?
What's that, Flip?
It's been like, I don't know, a month. And that axe has claimed 3 members of your party.
It's your party too, Flip. You've been
I
around
mean-
long enough.
Technically, it's been a month. It's been a month. 3
been a
weeks.
lot.
I mean, a lot has happened in this time. But there hasn't been a lot of time that's happened.
That's true. Yeah, I know, Flip. It's not something I super like to think about. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, no problem. I do have that effect on people, though. My personality seems like it's kind of like the theory that I'm starting to work on. The theory of relativity.
Oh yeah.
It's about the nature of time. Like, you're around me for a minute, and it seems like an hour because you're so excited. But
Yeah.
you stand in a fireball for an hour, and it seems like a minute. No, the other way around. Stand in a fireball for a minute, it seems like an hour. Something like that. I'm still working out the details.
Kind of like talking to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it makes perfect sense. You should publish that. That would make you some money.
Well, I'm already pretty rich and famous and well known for my scholarly and artistic works. In some ways, it's really a burden to be me.
I'm sure it must be very weighty.
Yeah. Hard,
You hear
And
you hear Kane just pipes up while he's treating his wounds and just goes, "Are you saying it isn't easy being green?"
No, I don't get that. That's not what I'm saying at all.
He just chuckles to
Teera
himself.
Teera kind of laughs, and as the conversation's sort of dying down, she does eye that axe like one more time, and then she would just kind of like,
Make me a will save.
just because I had to look at it.
You were
Are you
eyeing
serious?
it. You weren't just looking at it.
I was eyeing it. I said eyeing. God dang it. That's a 25. I'm very willful.
That succeeds. It is
Oh, good.
currently very suppressed. Its powers are very suppressed by Marta, the corpse
Marta's
tree.
doing her thing. Oh yeah. All right. So Teera would kind of like just sit near Kane, and she would just be like, "So when this is all said and done, what happens to Kane? Do you have a home somewhere?"
If this all plays out the way I'm hoping it will, then I will settle down somewhere. My daughter, where she will be safe. Specifically from mother. And that's all I want,
Yeah.
for her to be safe. Grow up free of her influence.
Mm.
I mean, when she gets older, if she decides to pursue the witchcraft arts, I will strongly dissuade her. But that's a decision she can make on her own. It will not be made for her.
Yeah. I agree. It's going to be hard to find somewhere where you can, hide and lay low.
If this works out, I won't have to hide.
Right.
If this works out,
Let's hope it works
my
out.
daughter could be directly in front of her and she wouldn't be able to see her.
Yeah. Yes. And Teera thinks about like the whole wish thing, and like it gets her thinking about what the hell she's gonna wish for. And it's kind of like a weighty decision.
What about you?
And so yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of already found what I was looking for. Now it's just seeing this all played out. See if I can get Vaughn out of whatever trouble he's in. I'd like to
Vaughn.
settle down with him.
And then you'll find some place to settle down and make a home of it.
I hope
Maybe
so.
make a few little sun-maned half-orcs.
Oh, that would be a sight. Maybe. But yeah, I've lived so loudly for a long time, and I just want quiet now. It's time for that.
Hopefully we can actually get that then.
Yeah, I hope so.
I would like
You have to
both of you
make
to...
sure this works out.
I would like both of you to make perception checks. Both you and Flip.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. 27.
Funny.
Flip, you don't notice it. But Teera, about the time you're starting to notice this, you see Kane kind of furrows his brow and you smell that. You can smell what seems to be a growing scent of like wood fire. Like when, not just like a campfire, but like when lots of wood and straw has been set ablaze.
Mm-hmm. I smell it, and I'm like, yeah, it smells like something's on fire. And Teera would kind of like, I would imagine they're sitting like on the boat, and she would like sit up and kind of look over the side and like really look for any smoke or anything like that.
As you get up, Keen sort of pulls himself up and heads over that way, and he suddenly kind of puts a hand on your shoulder. You can feel his fingertips almost digging in.
Mm-hmm.
What does that remind you of?
And Tira's eyes like get big, and for just a second, the vibe, the feeling in her stomach is just exactly like what it was when they were kids and their village burned.
Except it's not just for a second. This isn't a smell that brings forth a memory and just reminds you of that thing. This smells exactly like the day your village burned.
And I imagine if I can, the part like what it is that it's not like the hickory smoke and the walnut and that kind of smoke. It's like old wet oak that's used to build houses. It's very specific, and
the
it's exactly
thatch of the roofs. There's
Mhm.
also mixed in with that is the scent of burning corn and squash and things like that, because your village burned during was assaulted during
Like harvest.
the high harvest,
Mhm.
and the two of you were actually helping to set up for the high harvest when the village was raided.
Right.
So far,
Um,
as you're looking around,
T-
you're not seeing anything that's indicating a source.
Teera would like shake her head and like rub her nose, almost like trying to like will this sensation away. And
It's not going anywhere.
she would like kind of brush Kane's hand off of her shoulder, and she would just be like, "It's some weird trickery of this place, I'm sure. There's been enough fucked up stuff on this journey, I'm sure. The nearer we get to our destination, the weirder it's gonna get. I'm sure it's not real. It's not real."
But it's about this point where you can begin to smell the same thing that they're smelling.
Can I tell where it's coming from?
Make me another perception check.
$24.
You see that as they've been kind of looking around trying to find this, you see off to the right, to where the woods are even further away, you realize that this sort of river valley, while it overwhelmingly gently slopes sort of eastward, you notice that there's these sort of rolling hills, and you can just see maybe a half a mile away what has to be on the defilade side of one of these rolling hills. You can just see some of this gray and black smoke starting to curl up. It seems like the topography and the way the wind is blowing seems to be mostly keeping it down in this draw.
Do I think that I can get the ship airborne again?
Right now, you're not sure how.
Teera is still kind of frantically looking for smoke, probably unable to find it unless Flip points it out.
Yeah, you're frozen for us, Jake.
Can you hear me?
This will all be edited out later. You. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now.
That 10-second delay.
Yes.
Delightful.
Woof.
Stand by.
Should we just drop stream and play offline?
Oh, I'm checking something. Let's see. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's only about a 3 or 4 second delay. We're back up to about bouncing back up to where it should be. I closed a couple windows. I'm just waiting to see if the other party in the house is unintentionally uploading YouTube videos or something. Generally, we have a good sense of communication about... Oh. I didn't even know she left. Apparently, she's not even in the house. So I don't know what... Hello? Is there anybody else here?
Amazing.
Somebody else just broke into my house to upload YouTube
Hello?
videos.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Flip is going to look at Teera. And he's gonna say, "Smell that?
Yeah, I do. You see anything?
Yeah, there's some stuff over there."
I look. Do I see the same thing? I'm sure with the smoke and the stuff.
It takes a minute.
You know what they say?
What's that?
If there's smoke,
There's fire. Thank you, Flip.
you're welcome.
I think Jake's frozen again.
Am I? I'm just not moving.
You know, I'm
Simple Beaver.
thinking back to some of our adventures, Teera,
Yeah.
and I feel like we've made some mistakes. Things we might look back on and say, damn, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's life.
If you had it to do over again, would you?
I mean, I think that's kind of a big question, Flip. There's parts I would redo, I guess, but the same can be said for anybody's mistakes that they've ever made ever. I mean, I don't know. No, I guess there's a lot that's happened to me that didn't have anything to do with decisions I made. So, I don't know. What about you?
You know, I had a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in this dream I saw a great walled fortress overlooking a river and a bridge made of strong wood. But as I looked at it, I didn't feel intimidated. I felt welcomed. I don't think it was a fortress as much as it was something else. And as I looked down on this building, my vision changed. And suddenly there was a mass of people. All of them were in a group huddled together. I can't really explain it. One by one, they moved forward through a large gate, like a portcullis. Maybe it was a door. I don't remember exactly. And when I
Yeah.
got to the front of this line, they asked me what my name was.
Teera is leaning in.
And
Yeah.
as they did, I was about to say it, and then I woke up. What do you think that means?
Teera is speechless because she thinks she knows what it means, but she can't even say it. She can't put it into words. She doesn't have the right words. And she would shrug and say, "You're asking me a lot of questions that I don't know the answers to today, Flip."
You know what I find interesting?
What?
I was at the University of Absalom once teaching a class on psychology,
Yeah.
and there was a professor of cosmology who's very interested in the nature of time. And
Yeah.
he said that time is a construct we use to describe events to which we can ascribe no understanding. That time is too big of a concept for us to understand, and that therefore it doesn't exist. And I thought to myself, as a generally rational and logical creature, that of course I have a concept of time. I know that it takes me 1 hour to walk between two locations, and if I walk back, it'll take me about the same amount of time, unless it's raining and muddy, and then it might take longer.
Yeah.
But then I thought, have you ever lost someone? And then, many years later, you think of them. And it's a memory that's so vivid and so real that you could almost reach out and touch it. As if in that moment you're there, you're in the memory. It's not a memory, it's a point of space.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking about that. I got to thinking about that and wondering, maybe time doesn't exist. And maybe in that moment, time isn't linear, but instead everything is happening all at once. So even the people you've lost, if you think of them, in that moment they aren't gone. But you're
Teera,
still
like,
together.
oh my god. Teera like nods and is like like kind of not making eye contact. And she would kind of like nod and just be like, that's a nice way to think about it.
I don't know if it's true, but I have moments where I remember the things that have happened, and I'm there, which makes me ponder the meaning of time and makes me question my place in it.
Do you think, Flip, that you maybe know us from like before we met you? Is that
No,
what you're
that's
saying?
ridiculous. What a silly thing to. How is that even possible?
Uh, you just got done saying like anything's possible through time and da 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 da. Da. I, sorry, must be a little beyond me.
What I mean is, we're all sharing the same space, which makes me wonder about the nature of that relationship. But Tira, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If you had it to do all over again, would you do it the same way?
I think I would.
And Tira kind of like looks down as they're sitting here. Tira's got like her arms like propped up on her knees, and she kind of like looks down at her arms and she sees like all of her scars and her markings and like all of that, and just kind of thinks for a half a second what it would have been had none of the things happen to her. And she can't even imagine it. She can't put herself in that space. And that's kind of when she nods and she says,
Yeah, I think I would.
I'd like to think that we are the products of not just our experience, but of all the possibilities and the roads we didn't take. They too form who we are, not just on the outside, but on the inside. the decisions that you make to go left or right
Hmm.
fundamentally changes you.
That's true.
And
It
you can't go
does.
backward.
No, you can't. And
I
you
mean,
can't
unless you
beat.
technically walk backward, but
No,
why would you do that? That would take a
that's
long time. Nobody wants that.
yeah. And you can't beat yourself up over things that happened in the past either, I suppose.
No, nor should you. But I wonder, Teera, in the grand scheme of things, knowing what you know, seeing all you've seen, if you could give yourself the knowledge of today's Teera, but put it in the mind of yesterday's Teera, how do you think that little girl would react?
I don't know. I, I don't know. Probably try to avoid all of the shit that is coming, I guess. But I don't know if little me would be able to even comprehend all of. And Tira gestures at this ship and nods at Flip and says all of this.
But then, if little Teera tried to avoid it and change the course of your history,
Hmm.
would you be able to go back in time and warn her?
Exactly. Which is why you can't beat yourself up, right? Like you said.
Yeah.
And Tira would kind of like nod, and she's definitely not making eye contact now. And she would just kind of like be looking off into the distance, and she would just say like, you know what, I guess I have made some mistakes, Flip, that I would go back and fix. But you can't go back and fix them.
Flip is gonna. So Teera is seated.
Yeah, she's seated. She's like sitting next to you.
Um, Flip is gonna lightly pat her on the arm, and he's gonna say, "No, no, you're probably right. And if you could, maybe you shouldn't. But I think where you are is okay. It's where you're supposed to be anyway."
Well, I hope so. I guess if it wasn't where I was supposed to be, I wouldn't know anyway, right? I
Hmm.
think I'm starting to follow.
Yeah. I think sometimes you get in your own way.
Hmm. That's fair. That's fair.
And I think, how do I put this delicately? You're not as dumb as you seem at first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me, Flip. I I know you meant it as a compliment, so thank you.
Oh, surely.
Thank you.
And I think, despite your regrets about the friends you've lost and the paths not trod, until you find acceptance in your heart, you'll never truly know what you want.
And Tira smiles, and she would just kind of like nod, and she would just say, "Well, that gives me something to work on, I guess."
You were just little. There's nothing you could do. The path of your life isn't your fault.
Flip, what are you talking about? How do you know? And Teera would kind of like squint her eyes at him, and she would just be like, "What do you mean I was just little?
What?
You said you were just little. It wasn't your fault. You
Yeah,
don't know
no, because
anything
you
about
were
me."
was talking about you being 10 and not going through all your mistakes, and that's what I mean. You know?
Teera looks at Flip suspiciously. She'd be like, "Yeah, I guess."
Yeah. I mean, I know it might be hard to believe. I've made a mistake.
No.
I know.
Teera like rolls her eyes and be like, "What was your mistake?"
Hopping out of that tree?
And Teera would like punch him kind of playfully, and it's still probably a little too hard because he's just so small. But she's laughing, and she's laughing hard, and she's laughing like genuinely, and you can tell that this is very cathartic.
And that's
And Flip is gonna smirk, and he's gonna laugh.
and as the two of you are
That's
laughing,
nice.
you see Kane, who for part of that conversation, he was as Teera was sitting down, he was sitting next to Teera and was dressing some of her wounds, and
Mm-hmm.
at a certain point, you could tell Kane just was not following this conversation,
Yeah, he just like tuned out.
and he kind of stood up and was leaning against the railing,
Mm-hmm.
kind of with his feet propped up on a canted storage crate, and looking off in the direction of where Flip said he saw the smoke. And then all of a sudden, you both notice as Kane almost falls. He pushes off of that crate so hard, and he starts scrabbling along the railing, pulling himself up to the higher part of the ship, looking at something. And he's like, "No,
What?
it can't be. It's not possible.
Kane, what?
Get over here.
Kane, what?
Teera, get over
I do
here."
this. I go over with him. I like climb as best as I can.
You see Kane sort of pointing in the general direction, and you can now see the smoke, the kind of smoke that shows up when a fire is sort of dying down, and just things are left smoldering. But over that hill, about a quarter mile away, there's sort of a swirl of smoke as something emerges out of it. And you see a horse. And there are two figures on this horse. The one holding the reins looks to be about an 11-year-old girl with brilliant blonde hair, and a small boy clinging to her as they ride parallel and away from the ship as
What?
fast as this horse can go.
Kira's stunned. She's speechless. It's like staring off into nothing.
Kane kind of watches for a minute and like, that's not possible, right? Screw this. I'm going over to that fire. See whatever that is.
We should go. Flip, you don't think... Is this ship flying again?
I don't know.
We have to go check something out. Do you want to come?
Sure.
Kane's
Okay,
already
good.
scrabbling over the edge.
Yeah. Tira's like hurriedly like grabbing like her pack, and then she's...
There's actually a point sort of near where the cabin and the stairs leading up and the railing, sort of where he was standing, where because of the angle the ship is, it's only like a 3-foot drop to the earth, where it's all
Okay.
churned up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Kane scrabbles over, and he quickly runs about maybe 10 or 15 feet before he kind of stops and looks back to see if the two of you are coming.
We'll come. Kane, hold on. Just wait. We're coming. And then Teera like hurries off the side of the ship and like looks back, waits for Flip.
I'm coming.
Given his wolf-like nature, Keen is very much like the bloodhound that's sort of eagerly trying to pull at the leads.
Yes, amazing.
You, following Keen, you move across this terrain, and it's mostly like a river valley. The soil's pretty fertile here, so the grasses grow tall. There's even some a small mixture of wildflowers, and there's probably some wild roots, and you can probably smell onion and other things that are growing wild in this area. And it doesn't take long the terrain is easy to traverse. As soon as you come over this little rise, it's like somehow the act of cresting this small rise, you found yourself partially in a burned out village. Not just any burned out village. This looks like your village.
Are there people around?
You do not see a single person, neither a denizen of the town, nor do you see any of the raiders, the orcs and humans. Sorry, I was laughing at. I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at something
Gary's
Gary
being
said in the
being
side
a
chat.
cut up. No, it's like anguish. Haha.
I have something to say about that after this session.
Oh, great. Amazing. So Teera is like wide-eyed and just kind of like looking around and taking it in. And she has had this nightmare many times. It feels familiar almost even. But she just like looks around and kind of tries to like take Kane by the shoulder or grab him by the elbow or something. And she would just say, she's like, this isn't real. This can't be real. Just have to remember it's not real.
Flip is gonna like grab Teera by the leg.
What, Flip?
He's sort of looking back and forth. And he's like looking very uncertain.
Flip, do you see what we see? Like the village here?
Yeah, but I feel like I've been here before.
Yeah. We feel like we've been here before too. And I look over at Kane and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, does it feel familiar? Does it feel like this is like somewhere where you've been before or somewhere where you were from a long time ago? You
Sorry,
haven't told us anything. You haven't
who are you
told us
talking to?
anything. Flip.
Flip,
You
okay.
haven't
Sorry,
told
go
us
ahead.
anything. You haven't told us anything about where you're from.
He's just sort of looking around and his eyes widen and his hand sort of grips the back of Tira's leg. And for the first time, Flip looks afraid.
Flip,
Wow.
as you're gripping Tira's leg, just past Teera, about maybe 30 feet, you see a pile of bodies. Every one of them a kobold.
Oh.
There's several larger kobolds. What you can tell from, and probably owing to their mostly fire-resistant nature, these are all red dragon kobolds. You can see the red scales. They aren't like arranged in a pile like somebody threw them there. They look like they're arranged almost in what could best be described as they were trying to protect someone or something. And you can see in the midst a smaller kobold figure. And clutched in its hands is some sort of dirty white cloth.
Flip is going to walk over and he's going to look at it.
As you walk into the midst of these burned, dead kobolds, a small figure clutching this dirty white cloth. In one hand, you can see the charred remnants of a piece of parchment clutched in one hand. Barely any of the parchment remains. You can just make out a draconic rune with the word for home. The white cloth is dirty and singed a little bit around the edges, but is otherwise seems to be unharmed. But it's sort of kind of wrapped up in this bundle, almost like a sack, in this kobold's arms.
Gently, Flip is going to try and pry it out.
Not too terribly difficult. The kobold pretty much disintegrates into ash at the movement. Parchment kind of flutters away. And as you kind of carefully lift up this piece of cloth, some of the contents of the piece of cloth drop to the ground, making a similar to the sound of breaking glass. You see pieces of this sort of terracotta flower pot broken and dried flower petals.
Oh my god.
Flip is gonna look down and he's gonna touch them. He's gonna sort of run his hands, his fingers along the broken pieces. He's gonna trace the lines.
As you do so, a name comes into your mind. From where you don't know.
God.
Frank.
Oh my god. Both of you, you conspirators.
There's nothing conspiratorial about what's happening right now.
Oh my god. I don't believe you. I can't. I've been hurt too many times. What? Dude.
Flip is going to he's gonna gather up the pieces. And he's gonna gently put them in his satchel. And he's gonna take the dried flowers. And he's going to lay them over top of the kobolds. And he's going to, he didn't have time to get his pack, but he's going to look around the village and see if he can find a shovel.
You would be able to find somewhere in all of the debris, a shovel still intact. Are you still holding on to this white cloth?
Yeah, I put it in the satchel.
Oh, you put that in the satchel. Then, as you do,
is there something written on the? Is there something written on the cloth?
Well, that's what I was wondering, because all that happened was you picked it up and these pieces of flower pot fell out.
Right. Okay. Is there something written on the? Yeah. Is there something written on it?
So there's two things about this white cloth, and I think as you're stuffing it into your satchel, you notice it. The first is there is the remnants of a sewn name tag. It in itself looks sort of burned or worn away, and you can make out most of the word doctor. But below that, in one of the pockets, you hear the crunching of parchment. And investigating, you find in that pocket a child's drawing.
Flip is going to he's going to look at it. He's going to look at the drawing. And for a moment, he's going to stare into it deeply, as if there's nothing else in the world that exists. As if it's the first, last, and only thing he's ever seen. And he's going to clutch it to his chest. And he's going to put it on the inside of his jacket next to his heart.
At which
And
time,
then
I would say, at which time if you still want to, you're able to find a shovel and
yeah, and he's gonna start digging.
so during all of this, while this is happening, Kane has sort of been moving almost with a purpose. And right about the time that Flip is starting to walk up towards these kobolds is when Teera Kane calls you. Teera! Over here!
I go quickly.
And you sort of disappear around the side of a building, and that's when you see, though the walls have been burned away, the stones of the fireplace and the hearth still stand tall and part of the foundation. You recognize this as the house that you grew up in, at least until you were 11. It's the Frostheart home, or Dirkhead and Melina's home.
Teera kind of walks around, and I imagine certain like pieces of like furniture are there but singed, and like she kind of like touches some of the things, and she goes over to the fireplace, and
something crunches under your feet.
There's one rock. Oh, fuck. Okay, I look down.
Under your feet, you see the familiar hilt of your father's sword. And you see what crunched under your feet was the dozen or so pieces of shattered steel of the broken blade of Dirkhead's greatsword.
Teera, like, starts picking them up, I think, and just it seems silly. There's no good reason for this, but she just kind of, it just feels like the right thing to do in the moment. And with the talk she just had with Flip, she's just kind of trying to go with her gut rather than overthinking, and she just starts to pick up these pieces. I imagine she pulls over a chair, or like even pulls the table closer and starts putting the pieces like up on like a table or some surface.
You seem to almost intentionally be distracting yourself with this futile task of trying to reassemble the pieces of the broken sword. It's why you don't notice for a moment that Kane did not come inside. You see as he walks past, because the walls are gone, he's looking around at other things, and he still almost seems to be looking for something.
Eventually, like, Teera, like you said, is sort of distracted, and so she eventually like puts kind of the last piece up on the table, and she stands up, and she like she has a lot of sudden memories, like little things about this place, like that rock on the fireplace is where Kane hit his head that one time, or Torin hit his head that one time, and like different like little like incidents kind of like that play out, sort of like a montage, a very fast one. And then noticing that Kane is not in there with her, she then starts looking for him.
To head back outside, you sort of walk between a couple of the houses, and you almost trip over another body. It doesn't stand out particularly, other than you just notice that there's what at first looks like a large dog, and then you realize it's a dead wolf. And lying next to the wolf is a broken bow.
Oh.
Make a perception check, please.
Nat 1. It's a 17 total.
17 is still enough. This is more about being aware of sounds that are happening around you.
Oh, yeah.
And in a otherwise quiet setting, the only sound you can hear really is the wind. And now you can hear the sort of sound of Flip digging. But in one of the houses that you just see Kane walk past, you hear
You got noise gated. What is it?
did it so quiet. It's the we'll do what we did at the beginning. It's wah 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 wah. It's,
That's great. If you had to describe that sound without sounds, how would you? Is it like somebody crying?
It
Is
sounds like the sound of a rocking chair slowly creaking back and forth.
Okay. Okay.
And it's coming from the
Huh.
house nearby you. Kane just walked past it. You can see that this wall is intact, and the door is open, and you can just see movement of an empty rocking chair.
Teera would go up behind Kane and like put a like tap him on the shoulder and just kind of like shrug and be like,
Kane, I don't think there's anything here. There's no
Hold on.
people to rescue.
Hold on. As you go up to Kane, you kind of walk around the side of the house, and that whole wall has been just burned away.
mm-hmm.
And you can hear and see that rocking chair. And you see that what remains on the wall that remains, you see it's just floor to ceiling bookshelves. All of the books have been burned. Next to the rocking chair, on a charred table, you can see the remnants of a shattered champagne flute with just a few dregs of orange drink in it.
Oh my god. This is horrific. This is not fun. This is an unamusement park. Oh my god. Oh shit. Oh my god. And Teera, like, her face kind of hardens, and she would more forcefully grab Kane by the shoulder and be like,
I don't think we should stay here any longer. Do you understand? I think we should go.
Hold on, I'm looking for something.
Tell me what it is and I can help you find it. We can get the fuck out of here.
Look at this house here. The one with the rocking chair.
Yeah, I see it.
Right, and there's our house.
Yes.
You see that one there and that one there?
Yes.
Those houses were never in our village. Think about it. We were on the outskirts of the village. I mean, I may have been 6, but I remember.
Yeah, we were.
There were no houses on this edge.
There weren't. You're right.
But I recognize these houses.
You feel like you've been here before?
I know I've been here before. A place very like it. This is... That house right there. That's where Svolbar lived.
Yeah.
And that house right there. That's where Isula lived. And that house over there is where Ingvold and I lived. when I was living with the Northern Bear Clan, why is their village combined with our village? And he kind of shrugs off your hand, and he starts heading towards the one where he said that him and Ingvald lived together.
Are there like other houses?
There's quite a
or
few.
Is this pretty much okay?
There's way more, now that you're looking at it, there's way more houses than you
Like,
remember
should be here.
in closer proximity to one another than what you remember from your village growing up.
Okay. I think eventually, like, Teera would just kind of exasperatedly follow Kane.
You take
because
about
she wants to get out of here.
You take about 3 steps and you stumble over something.
I look down.
You hear that sound when you kick a stone and it sort of skitters across the ground.
Yeah.
You realize you're near the center of town.
Mhm.
The center of what town, you're not sure, because it doesn't match up with the town center of your town.
Town, right?
And you can see the remnants of some sort of a fountain or pool or whatever that was in the middle of this town square. The sides of it are broken. Whatever water was in it had leaked out, dried up in the fire.
Mhm.
But on the central plinth, you can just see the remnants of a set of feet. And spilling out and having caused the breakage in the side of it, you see all these pieces of broken statue, and the stone that you just kicked is carved in the likeness of the face of a turtle.
Is it Togo's face?
It looks like Togo.
Oh my god. I hate it. I hate it. I'm so glad I survived to the end of this campaign. This is great.
Flip, from where you're at, Flip, as you're digging, anytime you look up, you can sort of see, almost in a panorama, you see the two of them kind of moving from one house to another and sort of moving through. You always have eyes on them unless they pass by something, so you can kind of see the others as you're continuing your digging task. Kane rushes in towards this house that he said that he and Ingvald shared. And Teera, as you look up from the face of Togo, you see Kane reach the threshold of this house and immediately drop to his knee.
Teera goes up behind him quickly.
Before you even get to him, you see as he grabs the frame of the door, throws back his head, and just this horrific scream of anguish. And of course, Flip, you obviously hear that. Kane screaming in agony, not pain, like physical pain, but screaming in just pure rage and agony and despair. By the time you reach him, Teera, Kane, it's almost as if an invisible force is preventing him from moving forward. He's racked with sobs. It cannot be. This is just some horrific vision. You can see that he can't make himself move forward.
Mm-hmm.
You can see over his shoulder in the room 2 adult women. They're still recognizable, though they've clearly been burned. More likely than not, from the looks of them, they asphyxiated. The larger of the 2 women is holding the smaller woman, sort of with one arm around her shoulder. And the smaller woman is clutching a bundle wrapped in something close to her. You see, Teera, that the larger woman, the arm that isn't around the smaller woman, in her other hand is clutching a pair of goggles.
Oh.
The lenses are broken.
Oh, God. Shit.
Kane is slowly sobbing and crying and crawling his way forward, wanting to reach this person, these people, desperately, a hand reaching out, and he finally gets close enough to just barely grab at the bundle of cloth that the woman's holding.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear for the first time the name that he refused to give you. For a moment, you think he's calling to you. Teera. Oh. As he grabs the cloth and pulls it away, there is nothing there. You see what you can surmise to be Ysurla and Ingvald, mother and daughter, holding each other in death. But the child, Teera, is nowhere to be found. Do you say or do anything as a scene sort of fills out before you? And Kane, you can hear him a sob of almost relief, but still the grief of seeing other people that he loved.
Yeah. Teera would put a gentle hand on his shoulder and just kind of like pull him. Is he still like kind of on his hands and knees?
He immediately collapses into you, almost exactly the way Torin would have collapsed into you when you were comforting him during a thunderstorm. His legs are sort of splayed out sideways. He's got his head sort of buried in your chest, his arms around you, and he's just sobbing.
And anything logical Teera was gonna try to say, it doesn't happen. She hugs him back like hard, and then she kind of like does that thing where she like puts her hand on the back of his head and just lets him, and is kind of like trying to take all of this in herself as well.
As this is happening, the camera sort of slowly pulls back away from the scene, and without cutting, just sort of moves back through some of the debris. We see the broken statue of Togo. We see the burned books of and shattered mimosa of Mizia. And we sort of end back up over at where Flip is still at work with the shovel.
Flip is gonna he's gotten a bunch of the work done. And the cloth, the part of the cloth, he's gonna touch the picture through his clothing, but the cloth that says doctor, he's gonna drive the shovel into the ground. He's gonna keep the fragments of the flower pot, and he's gonna tie the cloth around the shovel. And he's going to look at the work that he's done and the work that is left to do. And he's going to glance down at the ground. He's going to look back up at the sky, and he's going to try and find Teera and Kane, but they're sort of nowhere to be seen. And he's going to say, "This isn't your burden to carry." And he's going to turn around and walk away.
As you are walking away, you feel something in the ground. Sort of a heavy, almost like as if a tree was felled not far away. Just sort of a heavy thump. And then another one. Thump. It's rhythmic. Thump, 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 thump. And you can just start to hear, beyond that feel, you can hear the sound of something striking the earth coming from the direction of the woods, which are still probably another several hundred yards away. And then you can start to hear the sound of smaller trees snapping as something heavy seems to be moving towards this village. Teera, you also can feel and hear this. Something is moving through the woods. Something big and something relatively fast.
Shit. Teera would pull Kane back and just be like, "We have to get up. We have to go. We have to move now. Kane, come on."
It takes him a moment, and he sort of pushes away from you and kind of wipes snot from his face and kind of quickly puts his palms in his eyes. And what is that?
I don't know.
And you can see he shakes his head and immediately is shifting with some difficulty, but he's shifting into ready for action, Kane.
She said, "I don't know, but I think we should get away from it, whatever it is."
He kind of gives a nod to you and pushes out through the door. And a moment later, you can see across this, through a couple houses, you can see Flip. And Flip, you can see Kane and Teera sort of coming towards you. The trees at the edge of the woods, you can now see the tops of some of the trees are starting to sort of, as you hear that, suddenly two not huge trees, just smaller trees, sort of almost explode outward. And you see a log cabin about 30 feet in the air on two large chicken legs.
What the fuck?
Somebody's not familiar. Somebody's not familiar with the Baba Yaga or Baba.
Nope.
Yeah, Baba
What
Yaga
the-
lore.
Oh my God. What in the world, bro?
So Cari can actually act like Teera. As you see this, literally, it's a giant cabin, or a cabin, log cabin, propelled on two large chicken legs. And it comes running into the midst of all of you and kind of almost does a circle around you and kind of cuts between you. It moves to an area of relative clearness. And then you see the feet sort of and then it's sort of like a chicken roosting. The cabin
Like
settles
nestles
down. And Teera, you recognize this cabin. It's Melina, the Frostheart, the Frost Witch's cabin, where you were transported, and she offered you that deal. As the house settles down into the dust, you can sort of hear, you even see some of the thatch kind of ruffles almost like feathers. And then the house, you can hear this sort of
As
of
it
all the wood
settles.
resting, settling into place. And then you see inside
Mm.
a couple lanterns flare up in the windows. And then you hear at the front door, the door opens. And it takes a moment before you get a full glimpse of what you're looking at. Before Kane takes off running. As a 4-year-old girl steps out of the cabin with very blonde hair.
Oh.
And she, before Kane even gets halfway to her, she yells, "Papa!" and starts running towards Kane.
Oh.
And as Kane slides the last 6 feet on his knees and just scoops this girl up, he's now sobbing, this time with joy, as he's holding on to this little girl. Flip and Teera, you see Melina Frostheart step through the door and onto the porch. She looks right at you, Teera. I think it's time we have a talk. You can bring your goblin friend too, if you wish. And she turns around and walks back into the cabin. And that's where we're going to end this session.
Oh my god. That was we have to rename this episode the Unamusement Park.
So
it's
I
canon.
mean, technically it's in the name in order to remember the Unforgettable. Now,
Yeah.
here's what I wanted to say about the conspiratorial thing. I had zero idea that Gary was going to go down the roads that he went down with the stuff he talked to you about. As you started talking, Gary, I kept glancing down. I'm like, I just wrote these notes today. I'm like, you're like,
So
it's
fucking-
like you're setting me up. Like I told you, hey, talk about this.
It's almost like we've been playing together for 4 years or something.
So it was,
Wow.
I was a little bit concerned when you started doing certain things because I'm like, oh, it's not so much concerned because I always trust you guys, but I'm kind of like, oh, am I gonna have to flip things here? No pun intended.
Yeah.
And and then just the way
That would be the best
you went with it,
development.
I'm like, I could not have planned a better setup for any of this. And ultimately,
Do you have any regrets? Guess what? Here they all are.
And I mean, yeah, just all of that. Would you do it any different? And then on my notes is pretty much everything I said. I'm basically going to take you through a not fun house of all of the people that you've known and that have died or been,
Their grisly fates.
or who knows, but all consolidated into one place. And oh yeah, here's some more family trauma.
Yeah, guess what? Here's the burned corpses of everybody you've ever loved. Welcome to MTD.
The order did change just because of the way Gary kind of took things
That was
with
beautiful,
Flip,
dude.
that I just
That was
moved
great.
forward the kobold reveal. Otherwise, all of that was what I had written down in the planning of the
That
session. So
is
I was a little
amazing.
baffled by it, and I wanted to get us through to the point of the appearance of Melina, and I cannot believe you've never heard about Baba Yaga's dancing hut.
Nope, I have never heard of any of this
All right.
shit, and so Teera would react exactly the way I
When
did.
we
What the fuck is that?
when we get off air, I'll tell you a little bit about it and why it's one of my favorite
Please
pieces
do.
of folklore.
I can't wait.
Also, we had a hard stop. I was kind of wanting to make sure that we were going to get through to
Perfect.
that. The Melina Frostheart's dancing hut was the interrupt. That if it looked like we were running long, that was going to be where it was going to come in no matter what.
Amazing.
All right, so that was
Awesome.
episode 98.
Wow.
We are getting closer and closer to the end of this, we're probably, I can say for certainty, we're definitely within 6 episodes of the end, but it's going to definitely, I think it's going to be less than that.
Wow. That is
Sorry for everybody who endured the technical difficulties early on. For some reason, sometimes my stream, it's the internet. What are you going to do? The VOD will be up in the next couple days, by the weekend at the latest, but with Twitch relaxing their exclusivity restrictions, I can put up whenever I want. Yeah, anyway, so thank you everybody that tuned in. As always, tomorrow night you can tune in for Sky Metal, the Iron Gods, our D&D campaign that Vi is our game master. Myself, Sarah, Karen, and Em are players in that. And then, of course, Thursday, it's the big dance. It's the homecoming dance in Paradise Academy, Season 2, Episode 15, which I'm technically, right now, I'm just calling the big dance or Midnight Masquerade, where it's just a high school dance. What could go wrong?
It'll be totally
Except for
normal
those 2
and
kids
fun.
that are bringing EMPs to the dance for some reason.
Yeah.
So
And my boyfriend
tune in
who's
for
all
that. Otherwise, as always, thank you everybody who hangs out in chat. If you're somebody that likes to lurk quietly in the background, we appreciate you. Or if you're watching later on the VODs, we appreciate you and hope you enjoy the show. And of course, a huge thank you to the remaining 2 players, without whom, Gary and Cari, without whom this would just be me talking to myself for a couple hours. With that, we're going to go ahead and end the stream the same way we end every stream, and you can say it with me if you want.